My name is Charles Simon. I was in World War II from 1942 to 46. I was drafted. Well, it was an experience for sure. Not knowing where I was going, when I was going, if I was going to get back or not. Oh yes, I was deployed into the Pacific Theater, Pacific War Theater. That was under General MacArthur. My assistant gunner is the first one that I lost. I was a machine gunner at the time, and well, from day one till. In fact, I took a machine gun while in basic training, and tried several times to get out of that position, but you never could move because you had trained in that position. Oh my God. We had what you call a K ration, consisted of a little bread dough-like, which we'd call a dog biscuit. It was hard as brick. A piece of cheese had dried. It had been in that box for so long it had dried up, and a piece of dark chocolate. That's what we had, and it was in a little box similar to the Cracker Jack boxes, dipped in paraffin wax. The paraffin wax was to keep the moisture out of it, while it was aboard ships and things of that nature. Nothing. There wasn't any jobs, nothing to be found. But just about a month and a half later, I got a job at Mid-State Wholesale. I got a job there as a truck driver, and which was, what did I make then? Around $42 a week. And that was a good bit of money at that time. Oh yes, I'd see them, those that was left, I'd see them every year. We had a division reunion in different parts of, excuse me, in different parts of the United States. We'd go from different states, and we never missed any, because that was a part of our family, those men that was left. And we'd go every year and look forward for the next year to come. But speaking about that, I'm the only one left in the reunion. You remember that, 96? That was the division that I was in. That Sawtooth Ridge, that was a hard battle there. They were in these big boulders, as big as a bus, a car, these big rocks, and they were hit back there,
I'm Leroy Kubero. I was a captain in the Medical Service Corps, and in Vietnam I was attached to the 15th Med Battalion, 1st Cavalry Division. And basically our mission was to extract and to ferry the wounded. I was stationed at in an area called Phuoc Vinh, South Vietnam. It's in 3 corps. Vietnam was divided into 4 corps. So I was in the Marine Corps for 6 years. And then I got out and went to school, went to college, got my degree in biology, and then that qualified me for the Medical Service Corps, and I got a direct commission in the Army as an officer in the Medical Service. The Medical Service is a branch of the Medical Corps. The Medical Corps is where all your doctors are made up of. And the Medical Service is actually the administrators of hospitals and things like that. They also the optometrists, the pharmacists, the general administrators in the hospital and that sort of thing. So basically that was my job. And I was also a pilot. So basically my primary mission in the Medical Service was flying. The Marine Corps, actually the first night that I was in San Diego, which is where I took my basic training, I swore to God that my father was the smartest man I ever knew, and I was going back to college if ever I finished with the 4 years I was there. So it was quite unique. a lot different than what I thought it would have been. There was a lot of discipline. They had to remold people from a civilian attitude. And you have to remember, in those days, that sort of was an anti-establishment period in the late 50s, because that's when Elvis Presley and all those people were really coming into being, and a lot of young people were starting to, you know, dress differently, let their hair grow out. Most of our haircuts, you know, before that was all high and tight, you know, short hair and things like that. Not many people had long hair. And it was a progressive time. And at that period of time, when I went in the Marines, there was a lot of Marines that were going in because of criminal activity, like gangs and things like that, and the courts were sending them in. So that made it unique as well in dealing with those kind of people. So the Marine Corps had to tear those people out, tear their attitudes down, and rebuild them into a military's mindset. And they did it, you know, in you might say a more direct and absolute manner, which of course today would not probably be, well, it's not acceptable today, but in those days it was. It was more fear management than anything else. But they did their job. I'll have to say this, now in the Army Medical Service, when I went in as an officer, it wasn't anything like that. In fact, I walked around for 2 weeks in civilian clothes as a second lieutenant, because the medical service was a direct commission, which means that one day you're civilian, the next day you're lieutenant. It was based on your educational background, and they took you for the curricula that you had. Well, we went in to pick up 5 ambulatory patients, and when we went in, the long and short, we got shot down. We had run into a major NVA, or North Vietnamese force, and we didn't know, and the friendlies didn't know they were there. When we landed, they shot us up. The other pilot was wounded when we landed, and then or we were about to land. He got hit. So I took the controls, and I finally was trying to get the ship out, but we were in a sort of a confined area, so I wasn't able to get the ship, you know. We couldn't get the full performance out of the ship because I had to dissipate most of my airspeed to get over the trees. And when I did, they just hammered on us and cut the ship to pieces. And so we went down in the same area we were trying to land in, and in the crash I ended up with a busted shoulder. One of the crew members was killed, and Sergeant Rocco actually got up on top of the ship, and the ship started burning. The crew chief got out, the medic got out. The medic was still trapped in the ship. Sergeant Rocco got out, and he pulled the other pilot had fallen on top of me. He pulled him out, and then he came back and helped me get out. And that's when I found out I had a crushed shoulder. And then we went back and we pulled the medic out, and then that's when we saw that the crew chief, or the gunner, had been killed. And then we started, as we say in Vietnamese language, beat feet for the friendly lines, and that's when I got shot in the legs. But after that experience, I put Sergeant Rocco in for the Congressional Medal of Honor, and he got it in 1974. The thing about the medevac system in Vietnam, we could take a guy that got hit, let's say, in the furthest reaches of our area of operations, which would probably take a South Vietnamese guy's family or something 2 weeks to travel the same distance we could travel in 45 minutes to an hour, and have him back in a major hospital. And that started a system that saved a lot of lives. And I always try to emphasize this. I said the medevac system was one of the things, the positive things that came out of Vietnam, and it is, because that system was brought back over here in the United States, in what we call CONUS, Continental United States. And all of your air med units that you use now, that was a system that was developed from that medevac system in Vietnam. And actually it started in Korea, but Korea was very antiquated. They only had small ships that could only carry 2 patients at one time. And from that, they built the medevac system, the military medevac system, using the Hueys. That was the first turbine ships they used. And then now they use the Black Hawks. But the medical advances that have taken place to get a soldier out, that's why there's so many really disabled soldiers coming back with serious, mental problems and stuff. In Vietnam, I'd say if you had a bad head wound or something, their chances of survival would have probably been 30%. But now it's more like maybe 70%, 80%. But it was all through this medevac system. And that was one of the very positive things that was brought back to Vietnam.
Hello, I'm Scott Coco. I was in the Marine Corps. I went in September of 1987, and I was discharged 4 years to the day in September of 1991. On the enlisted side, I was an E4, which is a corporal. I was 23 years old, and I was in some bad ruts, if you will, and I needed a change of pace, environment. I needed to leave and go into a place that that could change who I was and really help me to grow up. If I was going to go into the military and spend 4 years doing something, I wanted to be miserable doing it, so that when my 4-year enlistment was up, I would have learned my lesson and be ready to go back to school and be serious and focused. So I looked at all the different branches of the military, and I chose the Marine Corps because it seemed to be the hardest, and I chose the infantry as the MOS, the military occupational specialty, the job that I was to do to help me learn my lesson. The second day that we were stationed, we were on our base in Hawaii. We had to go around, and me and 8 other guys who had just arrived to our unit, to the company, Lima Company, that we were assigned to. And we had to spend the day going around to all these different places on base, checking in, picking up our equipment, getting seen by the dental people and the medical people and everything else. And you don't just walk around on these bases. Everything is a formation where people are marching you. So they had 8 guys in 2 columns and 1 guy on the side, marching left, right. And you learn early on that you have to look for gold and silver bars on people's collars because you have to be sure to salute officers. And so we're walking down the sidewalk, and I'm the guy that's marching these 8 people. And there's a guy coming at me, and so I'm looking at he's in uniform. And because on base you have people that are in the camouflage uniforms, but you have people that are also in the dress, the Charlies they call them, the dress, shirt, pants, and whatever. And that's where you see your ribbons and your medals. And so I'm marching these guys down the road, and this guy's coming at me, and first thing I'm looking for is to see if he's got silver or gold. And he doesn't. He's an enlisted guy. He's got his insignia on his collar. So we walk right by him, and he as soon as we pass him, he says, "Marine, stop that platoon." And I'm like, "Platoon, halt!" And he says, "Do you know what this is?" He said, "When did you get here?" And I said, "We got here 3 days ago." And he said, "Do you know what this is?" And I said, "No, sir." He said, "This is the Medal of Honor." And I said, "The Medal of Honor is, the highest award that anybody can get in the military. Basically, you have to give your life or risk your life to save others to get it. It's the Medal of Honor. It's awarded by the president. That's how important and how special it is. And he says, you have to salute this ribbon anytime that you see it. He said, you're not saluting me, you're saluting the ribbon. And so his name was Sergeant Major Kellogg. We landed in Riyadh for Desert Storm, and it was about 2 o'clock in the morning, and there's not, at least the plane that we got off of, they didn't have those chutes, those tubes that come to the plane to meet the plane to let you go inside, so we came down a ladder. And it took 36 hours to get there from Hawaii. And when I got to the door and I stepped out at 2:30 in the morning, I felt a breeze hit my skin that is real similar to the what you feel when you open your oven to look inside to see if whatever's baking is done, and that heat wave hits you in the face. It was probably 120 to 25 degrees, and I thought, oh my goodness, this is what we in for. Move slowly towards the Saudi Arabian Kuwaiti border. Our whole battalion did, which is 500 people. And so, and we would just, I mean, there's a 4-lane road that goes from Riyadh to Kuwait City to Baghdad. And when you look left and you look right, all you see is sand. I mean, we went to some places that I'll never go to again. I never want to go to again. But you know, we went to Thailand for 6 weeks in a third world country, and just to see how people live in a third world country where there's really no rules, no police, nothing's enforced. People just do whatever they want to do. And to see that is just a unique experience. I mean, I could tell you about it, but you have to see it. Everything smells the same. They sell, instead of corn dogs like you get at Pronto Pups, like you get at Harry's, they have a monkey hand with a stick in it, and it's fried, and you see the 5 fingers. It's a monkey hand, so things like that. Korea, Saudi Arabia, Okinawa, the places I've gotten to, I had to see. Hawaii, living in Hawaii, that was wonderful. So that was special.
My name is Colonel Michael Borrell. I joined the Louisiana National Guard in December of 1977, and I retired from the Guard in April of 2012. So I spent 35 years, 34 and a half years in the Guard. Then I became a State of Louisiana Military Department for the last 5.5 years. So I've been wearing the uniform for a little over 40 years. And then I was mobilized for Iraq. I went not with a unit, I went and worked as the director of all field reconstruction, and I worked for the U.S. ambassador in Iraq, in Baghdad. And so I did a lot of work with the Iraqi oil companies and with the U.S. Embassy. Germany, Czechoslovakia, France, England, pretty much all of Central America, Haiti, most of the states in the United States, and Iraq, Japan. Well, I went to the Louisiana Military Academy, and then just took positions. I took everything that was hard to do, nobody wanted to do it, and it got me promoted to 06 or colonel. I got, I think, good advice for anybody that graduates from high school. You know, pursue your dreams. Do everything you can to stay in college and complete college. Some kids, that's not their route, and that's okay. But you got to have a good work ethic, because it doesn't matter if you have a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, or a doctorate. If you don't have a work ethic, people are not going to employ you. And if they do employ you, you won't be employed for very long. So that's what I tell young people.